You coming to LA anytime soon?
Yeah, probably not for a minute. I got some things I gotta take care of.
Hey, welcome to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in Episode 2 of She-Hulk, Attorney for Hire. The episode picks up right after Episode 1 in the aftermath of Jennifer fighting Titania in the courtroom.
Aftermath of the chaos, a new superhero appears responsible for stopping the rampage, and she's been identified as Deputy District Attorney Jennifer Walters.
And in this bit, we learned that Titania in the MCU is a social media influencer, which is a great choice. In the comics, she's a skinny woman named Skeeter who always wanted to have superpowers and then was given strength by Dr. Doom. She's always held a grudge against She-Hulk, but the rivalry's always been kind of one-sided. But in the MCU, everyone with superpowers is a celebrity with like massive fan followings.
I don't want to make things awkward for you, but I do have to show you. Boom!
Hi, would you mind taking a picture with us?
Oh, sure.
She blasted through Thanos' fleet like the flaming angel. And you know what? She looked good doing it.
You get the idea. Now, this actually makes the MCU closer to the real world. Superheroes are popular in their world and in ours. So it makes total sense that a gorgeous, superpowered woman would leverage her powers to become a social media star who gave herself the nickname Titania. The news report says that she was in traffic court, which means that she didn't even storm into this trial to attack the defendant. She was probably just mad about one of her speeding tickets and then went kind of berserk.
I changed lanes in the intersection. I changed lanes without signaling while running a red light and speeding!
Her management is blaming her outburst on low blood sugar, an excuse actually ripped from the headlines. An Oklahoma high school basketball announcer used a racial slur during the team's kneeling and later blamed this on his diabetes and low blood sugar. Diabetes. During the report, we see that someone else gives Jennifer the name She-Hulk.
Like a chick Hulk. A She-Hulk? Exactly.
Just like Bruce warned her about.
You never have a choice with these names.
Night monkey.
It's Nightlight! Iron Man, that's kind of catchy. It's got a nice ring to it.
Hey, you pointed that out in the last Easter egg video.
Actually, you're right, but here's also a couple of Easter eggs that I missed in our last video. Jessica Clemens over at New Rockstars pointed out this helmet in Bruce's place that he wore as a gladiator on Sakaar, and many of you pointed out that this is the head of an Iron Legion bot that was sprayed with acid at the beginning of Age of Ultron. Now, of course, this was the first physical host for Ultron's consciousness, so maybe Bruce kept this around as a way to remind him of what happens when he and Tony tried to play God. Now, I missed this Easter egg because, look, to me, the helmet looks red and gold, not like blue and white. I'm kind of weirdly colorblind like that, and to me this doesn't look anything like the Iron Legion helmet.
Oh well.
Oh well indeed. And also I missed this Roxxon sign, and Roxxon is the Resident Evil Corporation in Marvel Comics. They appeared most prominently in the MCU in Agent Carter and in this sign in the original Iron Man. She-Hulk is a really fun show so far, and it's always great to see Bruce Banner still kicking around the MCU.
Yeah, but how come we never got a World War Hulk movie, or any other Hulk movie? The leader was teased. He was teased!
I know, buddy, and the reason is, well, it's really complicated. Basically, Marvel Studios made that movie, but the distribution rights belong to Universal Studios.
Oh, is that why Incredible Hulk is not on Disney Plus?
Exactly. It's also why the Spider-Man movies aren't on Disney Plus, because they were made by Sony. In fact, I mean, it's a really big pain. You have to subscribe to like 10 different streaming services, and then none of them have the movie that you're actually looking for.
There has to be a better way.
Well, there is. You can change your computer's IP address to another country with NordVPN, the sponsor of this video. See, just about any movie you can think of is streaming on Netflix, but maybe just not in the United States. So you can switch your IP address to another country where that movie is streaming on Netflix. NordVPN makes it very easy to change your IP address to a different country where that Spider-Man movie will be streaming on Netflix. It's like adding free streaming sites on top of the ones that you're already paying for. In fact, I purged about $60 worth of streaming sites just by using NordVPN. Now, I've been using NordVPN to watch movies for years, but recently I started using their new feature, Threat Protection. Threat Protection protects from malicious sites, downloads, trackers, and intrusive ads. So like, let's say you click on some suspicious attachment accidentally. Threat Protection deletes the download before it finishes, protecting your desktop from getting infected. In fact, it's actually the only ad blocker that I use. It's also very easy to use, and it even runs when the VPN is not active, which is huge because you may not be in the habit of always connecting your VPN right when you log in. So if you go to nordvpn.com/ScreenCrush or click our link in the description, you get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 months for free. Now, those free months are only available through YouTube, so click our link in the description and get your computer protected today. Back to the Easter eggs. The news broadcast ends with a bystander giving his take.
Yeah. So this chick, pretty decent.
And I love the detail that he feels the need to stop, judge the superhero based on her appearance before continuing on.
Turn into a Hulk. Like a chick Hulk. A She-Hulk? Exactly.
Now, it's also important to notice that a man has given her this name. Last episode, Jennifer gave a monologue that went viral where she described why she can control her anger better than Bruce can.
So, I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
The show is about Jennifer coming out of her shell. Now, Vox ran a great piece by Alex Abad-Santos about how Jennifer's struggle in this show is to allow herself to be larger than life. It's a neat contrast to her cousin Bruce. Bruce was afraid of becoming the Hulk because of his unchecked rage, but Jennifer's fears are being big because women are used to shrinking themselves as a survival mechanism. Now, in this episode, Jennifer is told that she needs to stay She-Hulk in order to be employed. So the decision to be this superhero is actually being made for her by a man. Eventually, she'll figure out why she wants to be She-Hulk for her own reasons and not for others. And I should also mention that this theme is present in the brilliant comics by Dan Slott. Jennifer was a wallflower before getting powers, but then being She-Hulk allows her to be a celebrity, to party, and park wherever she wants. There's also a lot of examples of sexism in this show, like,
There's a hot chick over there, I'm gonna go talk to it.
Now look, sentences like this are very extreme, but they show the kind of world that Jennifer lives in every day, and this means that she'll have even more fun when she decides to fully embrace her Hulk persona. And she's also the first MCU superhero we've seen who kind of has a total disdain for superheroes.
I did not go to law school and rack up 6 figures in student loans to become a vigilante that is for billionaires and narcissists and adult orphans for some reason.
Of course, they're making fun of the litany of adult orphans like Steve Rogers and Spider-Man, but also there's a lot of superheroes who are a combination of all three, like Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark. Her paralegal asks,
But you could be an Avenger.
Do the Avengers offer healthcare? Maternity leave, a pension, are they even paid?
And the MCU has been pretty quiet on this point, like whether or not the Avengers get paid.
Is there some kind of fund for heroes, or did Stark pay you when he was around? My condolences, by the way.
Thank you, but no, it doesn't really work like that.
I mean, Steve Rogers was an Avenger and he couldn't even afford rent.
Find a place in Brooklyn yet?
I don't think I can afford a place in Brooklyn.
Now then, the trial is declared a mistrial because She-Hulk saved the lives of the jury, making them biased in her favor. And actually the same thing happens in the Dan Slott comics, where she leaves a trial to go save the world and then the case is thrown out of court. Then there's a montage of her being rejected from several firms, with the offices being increasingly more terrible. This also kind of happens in the comics, where no building will rent her offices because she is a liability for supervillain attacks. Then she goes to a family dinner where we meet the extended family of Bruce Banner, featuring her mother, Tess Wallace-Kincaid from Ozark, and holy crap, that is Mark Lynn Baker.
Larry Appleton, that's me.
Who's that?
Mark Lynn Baker. He played Larry Appleton on that sitcom Perfect Strangers.
Never heard of it.
What do you mean you never heard of it? Come on, Perfect Strangers, TGIF, Larry Appleton. How have you never heard of this?
I'm only 2 years old.
All right, fair point. So in the comics, her dad, Morris, is a former county sheriff of Los Angeles who gave Jen her interest in the law, and her mother is the aunt of Bruce Banner. During dinner, her cousin asks about Hawkeye's arrows.
What happens to those arrows of his? I mean, does he go around and collect them when he's done?
Jenny? Now earlier I talked about how MCU fans are now characters in MCU movies, and now they're having the same kinds of conversations that the rest of us have been having in comic book shops for years.
But Aquaman, you cannot marry a woman without gills. You're from 2 different worlds.
Now Jen thinks she was punished for doing the right thing.
Now I feel like I'm being punished for doing the right thing. Like I get fired for saving people and now I can't get another job because of it.
And this goes back to what we talked about last week. Bruce tried to convince Jennifer to use her powers for good.
You're now a superhero. And who's gonna protect the world if it isn't people like us?
Saying that not using her powers was just as bad as using them for evil. And one of the things that makes Marvel heroes so great is that their lives are often miserable because of the sacrifices they make. Peter Parker loses the girl and can't hold down a job. Steve Rogers lost Peggy. Daredevil pretty much loses his whole supporting cast. And this question was thrown out again and again in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Are you happy, Stephen? Are you happy?
And actually, we did cover all this in depth in another video about why superheroes will always be miserable. But in this case, Jen is actually rewarded for her powers, as Holloway offers her a job heading up her superhero law division, which is exactly what happens in the comics. Except in the books, he demands that she be herself, Jennifer Walters, and here he makes the opposite request.
We just started a superhuman law division, and I want you, well, the She-Hulk, to be the face of it.
The firm's name, GLKH, is also the same as in the comics, and the new Superhuman Law Division is also taken from the books. And the name of the firm is a pretty sweet Marvel Comics Easter egg. G stands for Marty Goodman, original owner and publisher of Marvel Comics. L stands for Lieber, as in Stan Lieber, aka Stan Lee. And K stands for Kurtzenberg, the birth name of the comics great Jack Kirby. Holloway is hoping she'll bring in superhero clientele, just like another firm that fired Jennifer in the brilliant Charles Soule She-Hulk run. And, okay, there's a moment where she briefly walks past this guy who is in a room full of comic books. Now, in the comic She-Hulk, the law firm uses comic books as a research library because in the Marvel Comics universe, there is a Marvel Comics publishing company that publishes the exploits of the real-life superheroes. So the same could be true here, where this is the research library for the Superhuman Law Division.
Yeah, but all the comics in this episode are really blurry, and there's no way to know what they are.
Yeah, I know, Doug. You'd have to scroll through hundreds of issues of Marvel Comics and have an encyclopedic knowledge of Marvel Comics mastheads. So, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of Marvel Comics mastheads, and I scrolled through a few hundred comic book covers, and I found out what several of these issues are. Not all of them, because some of them are just too blurry, but here's what I got. And by the way, most of these issues are current as for what's going on in the MCU right now. This is an issue of The Incredible Hulk, might be 128, but too blurry to tell. New Avengers number 26, when Wanda Maximoff returned from her villain turn after the book House of M. This is an issue of Moon Knight, probably issue 17, and at first I thought this one was Avengers number 4 when Captain America's unfrozen and joins the team, but it's actually Captain America number 337 when he first wears the uniform that will later be adopted by John Walker as U.S. Agent, who by the way is now in the MCU.
We're not gonna need a Captain America. We're gonna need a U.S. agent.
Avengers number 363, a story prominently featuring Circe and the Black Knight, both prominent characters in the Eternals. What If number 28, which is What If Captain America won World 2 with an army of super soldiers. It's a bang and read, highly recommended. Iron Man 261, which is a key part of the Armor Wars series, which is being adapted for Phase 6 of the MCU, I hope. They said it was, and we haven't heard much on that since. Captain America number 274, where he goes up against a robot Baron von Strucker. Another Iron Man issue that is from the 70s or 80s, judging by the title. And the first issue of Thor, God of Thunder, which features the first appearance of Gore the God Butcher. And this is an early Marvel Comics crossover classic issue. This is your mom. If you caught any others, let me know in the comments below. And by the way, one of those Easter eggs was fake. So if you want to copy me in your videos, you better give me credit. And by the way, when Jen is looking at her laptop, there is a QR code which takes you to Savage She-Hulk number 1, the first appearance of this character. And this story says Man with Metal Claws and Bar Fight, which is the first MCU appearance of Wolverine. Wolverine's first appearance was in Hulk number 181. The two have fought many times over the years, and I can only hope that this is laying the groundwork for these two to finally fight on the big screen.
Let them fight.
And this article is asking why there is a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean, referring to the ending of the Eternals, and answering one of the plot hole questions that you people have been asking me for months. Then a very nice man named Pug brings Jennifer a welcome gift.
It's got some office supplies to get you started, snacks, and a map to the best bathroom for pooping.
Thank you.
Pug is one of the best characters in the comics, and he is in love with Jennifer, but that love is totally unrequited. The gift basket also includes another See You Later litigator mug, just like the one that Jen had in her office last episode. Jen is being asked to take on Emil Blonsky as a client. He was the heavy in The Incredible Hulk. Now, he appeared in Shang-Chi, grifting in a cage match with Wong, but up until now, we only knew that he was being held somewhere in Cairo Freeze, at least according to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'll reassign you to Barrow, Alaska, and you'll spend the rest of your years pulling the night shift guarding Blonsky's cryocell.
Holloway has a model of this Italian wooden speedboat behind his desk. Now, these were called the Riva Aquaramas, and they were really popular in the 1960s, owned by movie stars like Sophia Loren.
How do you know that?
I'm not too.
Fair enough.
Jennifer brings up the events of The Incredible Hulk and her conflict of interest.
This man tried to kill my cousin.
Now, just in case you've forgotten about the events of that movie, Thunderbolt Ross is trying to hunt down Bruce Banner with the help of a Special Forces soldier named Emil Blonsky. He gives Blonsky a super soldier serum so he can go toe-to-toe with the Hulk.
Not a great plan.
So Blonsky takes a little Banner blood, becomes
an abomination,
then tries to destroy Harlem. Blonsky is now being held at a secure facility, the West Coast version of the Raft that's on the East Coast. These little prison transfer cars also look a lot like the little cars that transported Bucky around in Civil War. Now when she goes to see him, the guard's rules:
do not step past the yellow line. Do not touch the glass separating you and the prisoner abomination.
are a play on Silence of the Lambs.
Do not touch the glass. Do not approach the glass. You pass him nothing but soft paper. No pencils or pens.
An observation that I thought made me clever until Jennifer directly quotes the movie.
You gonna serve me up with some fava beans and
A nice Chianti.
You'll notice that Blonsky is in the same cell that we briefly saw here in Shang-Chi. Hopefully we'll find out why in the hell the Sorcerer Supreme is making some extra scratch in a cage fight with a felon in the next episode. Now, this line is very interesting.
I have 7 soulmates that I met through the prison pen pal program that I want to start a new life with.
He says that he wants to start a new life with his former cellmates, and that is why the government is sponsoring his parole. And you know what he's talking about?
The Thunderbolts.
Very good, Doug, the Thunderbolts. The Thunderbolts are a team of anti-heroes and villains that Val has been slowly gathering together since last year.
Picking up the phone when I call you.
Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death.
And the Thunderbolts movie is coming to Phase 5. I think this is confirming that the Abomination will be on this team, along with former criminals like Baron Zemo, Ghost, Taskmaster, and we already have lots of videos explaining the Thunderbolts that are great. I highly suggest you check them out. Now, when Blonsky tells her his side of the story, he makes a good point. He was under orders from the US government to stop the Hulk, and he was being driven insane by a drug that the government put in his body.
They pumped me full of that super soldier serum.
I mean, he left out the part where he went and got some gamma blood for fun, even though they specifically warned him not to, or he would become
An abomination.
Blonsky has been making amends by writing haikus, which for some reason the show does not call Hulk-kus. So Jen calls her cousin to get his permission to take the case, and he says,
That fight was so many years ago, I'm a completely different person now. Literally.
Now this isn't just because he's Smart Hulk now, it's because Bruce Banner was originally played by Edward Norton before he was replaced by Mark Ruffalo. Now this is an example of the show being like a little more self-aware that it's a show. We have Jennifer talking to the camera, and maybe later we'll even get some meta jokes about the hero films being made in the MCU. Kind of the West Coast answer to Rogers the Musical.
I could do this all
He asks,
What'd they end up naming you anyway?
Because he knows that superheroes have no say in determining their own names. Except for Spider-Man, actually.
Crime-fighting spider. You're Spider-Boy?
Spider-Man.
And then the massive reveal of the episode that Bruce is on the Sakaran courier ship that we saw in the last episode, except now he is in space. Now last week we posted a video about how the ship is setting up a World War Hulk movie and how this could introduce his son Scar to the MCU so he can join the Young Avengers. You should check that video out if you have time, and we have a lot more to say on this subject, so subscribe and smash that little bell so you don't miss a thing.
And you don't want to miss a thing.
But the episode ends with the Abomination prison break that we saw in Shang-Chi, where footage of the cage fight has gone viral, and also a public fight going viral on the internet was a key part of that movie.
It's busted!
In the credits, we see her admitting a counterfeit Avengers mug into evidence, and there is a crucial map of her new office showing which bathrooms are good to poop in.
A map to the best bathroom for pooping.
Thank you.
And the credits tag shows Jen helping her dad with the heavy lifting chores, where he admits,
I don't know what 4K is. This thing, nobody does.
Because guess what? These shows are not in 4K, which is not really a bad thing, because She-Hulk has already taken us far enough into the horrifying depths of the uncanny valley. We're well past Polar Express here, people, and we're looking straight at The Sims.
Booma, Samzo Mog.
Well, that's all the Easter eggs we found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below, or you can @ me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.